Hello all, and welcome to a Saturday night whiskey review. This will probably be the last whiskey review that I do for a while, unless somebody gifts me a bottle of whiskey, for pretty obvious reasons. So, whiskey I'll be reviewing tonight is George Dickel Rye whiskey. Now, this is the second cheapest rye whiskey that you're going to find on the shelf. Only Old Overcoat is cheaper. That said, I find it's a complete step or two above Old Overcoat. And why that is because this is MGP slash LDI Lawrenceburg Distillers International distillate here. So this is the rye whiskey that you'll find in many rye whiskeys, including Templeton Rye Whiskey, Bullet Rye Whiskey, I believe Riverboat Rye Whiskey. So it's the same juice that you'll see in a lot of other places, and it's pretty much the cheapest you'll see this juice, at about $20 a bottle in Hawaii. It's probably cheaper in the mainland. Now, it's 95% rye on the mash bill and 5% barley, which means excuse me, which means that it is very, very much a rye whiskey, which only has to be 51% rye to qualify as a rye whiskey. This is 45% ABV, so it's a little bit on the stronger side. Now, what sets George Dickel apart from the rest of the people using the LDI MGP juice is that George Dickel goes and takes the juice, they truck it over to Tennessee, and they have it undergo the Tennessee whiskey treatment. In this case, for the George Dickel distillery, they chill filter it through oak charcoal. So, does this make for a very different rye whiskey compared to others using the same juice? I can't tell you. If I had money, certainly I would go forth and pick up a bottle of Bullet Rye, which is pretty much the same thing. It's 95%. I think it's almost the exact same thing, so there's no changing in the mixture. There's no higher barley content or anything like that. And just kind of comparing them side to side. But that's kind of impossible at this point. Maybe sometime in the future, yeah? So let's get to it before my ice all melts. So, it's a nice caramel orange color. Not too thick on the leavings here. Definitely get a smell of orange. To me, it's a little bit more like dried orange peel. There's a definitely minty flavor, mint element to it. And there's definitely a peppery aspect to it. And underneath all those things, kind of binding it together, is smell of oak. So, let's taste it, shall we? Immediately, first thing that hits me is the pepperiness in the mid-palate to finish. It is very peppery. It's like a blast of cayenne pepper from the middle to finish. It's a wee bit hot, but most of it's not. So there's spiciness to it, and there's also a little bit of hotness from the alcohol, just a little bit. In the front, there's some nice orangey, a little bit of caramel notes, oakiness before that pepper kicks in. There's obviously a bit of mintiness. Considering the spice aspect of it, it kind of comes across more like as a wintergreen sort of mint than just plain mint. Or peppermint, but peppermint always seems, I don't know, it seems more wintergreen. Even though there's that pepper aspect, it doesn't seem to be meshing with the mint, so it's more like wintergreen and, red pepper. I would have to say it's a little bit less sweet than Bullet Rye whiskey, but that's just from memory. I'd have to actually try it side by side to really give you a true assertion of that. So let's move on. And I'm not going to clean my mouth with water this time because it's basically the same stuff, so there's not going to be too wild of a change here. Of course, on the rocks have mostly melted at this point, so you can see it's like a lot of water has been added. That's okay, it's pretty intense on the taste straight, so let's go and see how it's like with, rocks and melted rocks. Wow, pepper is strongly diminished. You get a sense of how sweet it is. There's a lot of orange there. There's still that hint of mint. Wood is much more stronger, that oakiness. It's a little bit thin on the palate, even though the flavor is still very intense. It's kind of thin feeling on the palate. There's also kind of a stringent note to the finish that I'm not finding too pleasant. Still, it comes across as very different because the addition of water hits the pepper flavor strongest and foremost, leaving the rest of the flavors kind of behind. So it's very interesting. I would actually like to go and see this with, more as a mixer, as a Manhattan or something, or maybe rye whiskey old fashioned, just to go and see what it would be like, because I think that astringency would sort of disappear with some good mixers. Because otherwise, it's really damn good on the rocks. It really does seem like two almost completely different things, straight and on the rocks. It's a really interesting and funny phenomenon, I find. So, what can I say? It's more of it's as much an art as it is a science. Both the making and drinking of alcoholic beverages. Or anything, really, now that you come to think of it. Though there probably isn't much artistry. I'm digressing. Anyways, George Dickel Rye. Pretty good stuff for the price. You know, $20 for a bottle like this. You're not going to get much better. Unless you buy Old Overcoat over there. And I think you're kind of stepping down because Old Overcoat's got a little bit of off notes to it. And, you know, straight and on the rocks. So, you know, pretty much only good for a mixer. This one you can drink neat. I wouldn't really have it on the rocks by itself, but I think that it could be remedied as an ingredient in a cocktail, which would oomph up the body a bit and kind of cover over the more rough edges in the finish. So, do yourself a favor and get this when, you know, as a mixer, or go and give rye whiskey to people who don't really deserve the top shelf $60 a bottle rye whiskey, yeah? So, that's your whiskey review for tonight. So, I'm whiskey tongued right now. That's your whiskey review for tonight, folks. George Dickel Rye. Cheers.